You can't blame people. One day the war is on, one day it's off. Gas prices are up, mortgage rates are up, bond yields are up, home prices are up. So many people are being boxed out of the American dream. On top of it, every day we hear, oh, the stock market's doing great, another record high, but that doesn't help out people who don't own stocks. Welcome back, everyone. We are back with another economic update for July 1st, 2026. And if you're new here, what I like to do in these updates is talk about the news that's happening across the world that moves economies, what's happening in the markets, what's going on with economic data, and then I like to end off with a summary of what's happening in my financial plan. Now, obviously, none of this is financial advice. I like to share my ideas and the topics here on this board for one reason. We didn't learn these things in school. I wish I learned these things sooner. So if I can reach people out there to start learning these things, go look at other channels, other books, so on and so forth, you'll be able to reach financial freedom. Remember, we have one life to live. We don't want to spend it in debt, working the 9 to 5 till we're 70, not traveling and doing the things we want to do. But we can only maximize the enjoyment in our life if we are financially free. And that's my number one goal here. But before we get started this week, I just want to wish you all a very happy 4th of July. I hope you, your family, and your loved ones have a very safe, fun, happy holiday. We're all working very hard and we all deserve some time off. So go out there, enjoy it, and have a great time. So now let's take it to the top. There's been some massive changes in the Federal Reserve. If you don't know what the Fed is, long story short, they're in charge of the monetary system here in the United States. And the chairman of the Fed used to be Jerome Powell, but in the last few months, he's been replaced by Kevin Warsh, who's been known for having a very hawkish stance, meaning that he has no problem raising interest rates. And at his first press conference, he said that. And the markets absolutely roiled after that. They sold off like crazy. Now, they've since rebounded a bit, but nonetheless, everyone thinks that Kevin Warsh is going to be very hawkish when it comes to inflation because he said he doesn't care about growth so much in the economy. The labor market is strong. The stock market is doing quite well, setting records every single day, it seems. And they got to get inflation under control. It's been well above the 2% target for a long period of time, and he's here to stop it. And something investors keep their eye on is the 2-year Treasury, and it oftentimes predicts the interest rate policy for the Federal Reserve. And if you look at the 2-year chart right now, it's above 4%. And if we use that as our basis of where the Fed's going to be going with their interest rate policy, it's pointing towards rate hikes. So people are feeling that inflation is going to be around for a long period of time. When we get into the data, you're going to see inflation is really bad right now, but this is just one piece of data that people look at to try and predict what the Federal Reserve is going to do. And one that's not really being talked about out there is gold selling off. When gold and silver go up, it's because investors start piling their money in there. If they expect inflation through government stimulus, through rate cuts, through quantitative easing and money printing, people pile their money into gold and silver. Why? When the Federal Reserve prints money, let's paraphrase, there's an infinite amount of dollars they can print. And that's why the dollar has been devalued so much over the last few decades. But there's only so much gold. There's only so much silver. There's a finite amount. And investors like to hold on to those hard assets where there's only a fixed amount of those. So anytime the government or the Fed start printing money and making all sorts of stimulus packages, those assets that are fixed and only have so many of them, they go up when it comes to the value in regards to devalued dollars. But right now, gold and silver are selling off like crazy. So this could be a sign that there's some deflation or at least disinflation on the horizon. Something to really keep our eyes on. Next, let's talk markets. The S&P 500 for the week was up about 2% and for the month is down about 1%. So kind of hovering around all-time highs, going a little bit flat or sideways right now. But for the year, it still had over 20% when it comes to its return. That's a massive return on investment. People typically feel that a 7 to 9% return in the stock market is fantastic. But in the last few years, with massive money printing year over year, inflation through the roof year over year, the stock market has done remarkably well. And anyone who's been invested has done terrific. Moving on, gold, we touched upon this, but for the week, gold is down 5.5%. For the month, it's down over 10%. But for the year, it's still up almost 30% because about 18 months ago when money printing and government deficits and all these things were on the horizon, tax cuts, right? That was one of Trump's big things, people saw all this stuff as inflationary and people piled their money into gold. I'll share a chart right now. You can see the huge peak in gold and silver prices as people were expecting inflation. But like I said, it's starting to come back down to earth. So once again, something that's very important to keep our eyes on. Next, Bitcoin has been getting absolutely obliterated for a long period of time. Now, people out there will say Bitcoin is gold 2.0. It's the digital version of gold. If there's tough times in the economy, pile your money into Bitcoin. There's only a fixed amount of Bitcoin, which is true, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you can let me know in the comments below. I'm not a big time Bitcoin guy. Now, if you can make money in cryptocurrency, do it. But it's really not for me, and here's why. For the week, it's down 2.5%. For the month, it's down 18%. For the year, it's down 45% from all-time highs. Now, this can happen in any asset class. And when things go down in price, there's a buying opportunity. So I'm sure a lot of people are keeping their eye on Bitcoin as prices continue to go down. But as we can see, when the economy gets a little wobbly and we have some bad inflation like we've been dealing with, Bitcoin sells off. Next, let's talk oil. Since March, when the Iran war kicked off, oil prices have shot through the roof, and that's very inflationary. Why is that? If it costs more to fuel a vehicle, it's going to cost more to deliver packages to your house. It's going to cost more for the electrician to get to your house. It's going to cost more for you to get to work. Chances are you're going to have to ask for a raise. And then if you ask for a raise, your business or a company rather is going to have to charge more for the services they render. And when oil prices go up, now you know that it's a big inflationary spiral upward. But right now, with peace talks on the horizon and the war seemingly, hopefully at least, simmering down and coming to a close, oil prices are going down and very quickly, which is great for long-term inflation. For the week, oil prices are down 2.5%. For the month, it's down 25%. That is awesome for you and me. And for the year, it's only up 5%. So oil drives inflation. When inflation is up, 10-year Treasury goes up. We'll talk about that in a second. But when oil goes down, it's great for you and me as the cost of everything else starts to go down. Next, we have the 10-year Treasury. Now, what is that? That's a bond that the government issues. Simply put, it's an IOU. For quite a while now, our government has been running a deficit. If they're spending $1,000 a month, but they're taking in only $900 a month in revenue from taxes, what do? They need $100. So you will give them the $100, and what will they do? They'll give you a bond with interest, and that $100 that you give them so they can pay their bills now will be worth maybe $110, $120 down the line. That's how a bond works. And right now, bond yields are going up, and that happens when inflation is expected. But before we move on, I just want to take a moment and say that your support means the world to me. Every time I see a comment of encouragement, it makes me want to continue to do these videos. I work very hard to deliver high value, high quality content for you so that someday you can become financially free. So all I ask for is you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out tremendously, and thank you for being here. Now, let's get back to it. And finally, all the way to the right, we have mortgage rates. I go to Mortgage News Daily and I look up their information. That's been a great resource for me for a long period of time. I highly suggest you check it out. And for this stat here, I use the 30-year mortgage because that's what most people out there are going to be using when they go out there to buy a home, maybe their first-time home buyer, you name it. So mortgage rates have gone up significantly in the last few months because mortgage rates are tied to the 10-year Treasury. People will get a mortgage. Their bank will then take a whole bunch of mortgages they're lending and they'll roll it up, simply put, in what's called a mortgage-backed security. It's a bond. It's a 30-year bond. It's a long-term bond, just like the 10-year Treasury. So when the 10-year goes up, oftentimes mortgage rates go up as well. And because of this war and oil prices going up, mortgage rates have gone up. And where it stands today, the mortgage rates for a 30-year mortgage are at a 6.54% interest rate. And in the last year, they've been as high as 6.85 and as low as 5.99. And with this war ending, hopefully coming to a close for good once and for all, oil prices will remain low, maybe even go lower, which will drive inflation down, which will drive the 10-year Treasury down, which will drive down mortgage rates. Next, let's talk economic data. First thing we're going to discuss is inflation. A little story here when it comes to the supply chain of inflation, so to speak. It starts here with the PPI, works its way to the CPI, and then ends off with the PCE. What are these pieces of data? The PPI is the producer price index. This is what the producers of all these products, the manufacturers, this is what they're paying. Then we have the CPI, which is the price on the shelf. And then we have the PCE is what we're paying. All right, so it works its way through. When inflation starts here, it moves on to the next one and then to the next one. Right now, year over year, the PPI is at 6.5%. That is well above the Federal Reserve's 2% inflationary target that they have. Then the CPI is coming in at 4.2 year over year, once again, well above 2%. And then finally, the PCE, which is the Federal Reserve's favorite piece of data, is also coming in at well over 2%. This inflation story is getting out of control. People are sick of it. And hopefully, with all the changes here at the Fed, they can finally get this inflation under control. And next, we have the Consumer Sentiment Survey. This is a survey that's done by the University of Michigan to get a gauge on how people are feeling about the economy. Now, how do you think they're feeling? You guessed it, they're not feeling very good. In April, there was a record low reading of 44.8. Now, it improved in May to 48.9, but that's not very good. I'm gonna put a post up right now to show you that historically, still, even with the improvement to May, it's very low. You can't blame people. One day the war is on, one day it's off. Gas prices are up, mortgage rates are up, bond yields are up, home prices are up. So many people are being boxed out of the American dream. On top of it, every day we hear, oh, the stock market's doing great, another record high, but that doesn't help out people who don't own stocks. People are having trouble fueling their vehicles to get to work, never mind buying stocks at these prices. So it's no surprise that the Consumer Sentiment Survey is this low. Moving on, we have the JOLTS report. That's job openings and labor turnover. And the last reading came in at 7.6 million jobs open. That's good. There's more jobs open than were expected. The expected reading was 7.3 million. And another thing in this reading is the number of quits. If people are willing to quit their job, they're pretty confident that they'll go out there and get a better job or one that has better benefits or a better working condition, right? If they're quitting, they feel confident. And the quits came in above expected at 3.1 million. So that is a sign that the labor force is still pretty strong here in America. And all the way to the right, we have the unemployment reading. This came in right as expected at 4.3%. Now, unemployment is on the rise and it's trending in the wrong direction. But historically speaking, a 4.3% rating is quite low, but this is definitely trending in the wrong direction. And one of my favorite pieces of data that tells the full story when it comes to unemployment is the unemployment reading of 27 weeks or more. That's people who have been out of a job for more than 6 months and they're looking for a job. And right now in May, it just came in at 1.98 million. Let's go back 4 or 5 months. In January, it was 1.81 million. In May of last year, it was much lower, 1.46 million. And then just 2 years ago, in May of 2024, it came in at 1.36 million. In just 2 years, this reading here of people who have been out of a job for 6 months or more has risen by 46%. This is not a good piece of data. Now let's take a look at the summary of all this and what a financial plan looks like. Now, as always, none of this is financial advice. Personal finance is personal to you. It's going to be different for everybody. There's different time frames. For example, someone who's 30 is going to have a different financial plan than someone who's 90. Your values, your goals, what makes you happy is going to be different from everybody. I share these things because we didn't learn these things in school. And I want to help you understand what's going on in the world, to set you on your course, to go out there and learn more, read more, study things so that one day you can become financially free. And the first thing we all have to accept and remember is that no one is coming to save you. Now, that shouldn't be seen as pessimistic, but it's a reality that people accept at different periods in their life. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll start building skills. The sooner you'll start learning things like this, and the sooner you'll take action in reaching your goals. And some of the broad topics in the economy or some of the indicators that I'd like to keep my eye on are these right here. They're essentially principles that happen from time to time as the years go on. First, Whenever inflation is expected, gold and silver prices go through the roof. We talked about it before here. There's only so much gold and silver, and they can print infinite amounts of dollars. So why would you hold dollars when they're printing trillions of them? Why not take those dollars and buy assets that go up in value when they print dollars, not holding dollars that go down in value when they print dollars? And generally speaking, anytime rate cuts are on the horizon when it comes from the Federal Reserve cutting rates, tech stocks go up and cryptocurrencies, namely Bitcoin, also do well during those periods of time. And the other thing that the Federal Reserve can do, they can raise interest rates. And during periods of time where rate hikes are expected, oftentimes tech stocks don't do very well. Right now, Bitcoin is not doing well at all. But during those times, there's always an opportunity. Dividend stocks, things that are seen as safer, do very well when rate hikes are expected. And finally, usually anytime there's a war like we're seeing right now, oil prices go up. And when oil prices go up, inflation goes up. Bond yields go up. Gold prices can oftentimes go up. Mortgage rates definitely go up. So as we go through the years, the decades, we live our life, it's important to understand these principles or these indicators of the economy so we can position ourselves for opportunities to make money. And here's my plan. First, it's always important to have an emergency fund. Oftentimes you'll hear people say you need a 6-month emergency fund. I personally like a 9 to 12-month emergency fund. It helps me sleep a little bit better, and it helps me take on risk with my side hustles, which I'll get to in a minute. Part 2, my ongoing plan, paying down debt and buying stocks simultaneously. Stocks are very high right now, so I've been making a lot of prepayments on my small auto loan, but also my mortgage to save on interest in the long term. But when stocks go down and they're very cheap and they're at a very reasonable price, what am I buying? I'm buying high quality, money-making machine companies that pay a dividend. They're very safe. And at the end, I'm hoping to have very low or no debt sooner than later. And I'm also looking to simultaneously build a dividend income portfolio. Number 3, skills, side hustles, and escaping the rat race. When skills are in high demand, you can make top dollar doing those jobs. Right now, not that many people are going into the trades, they're going into college, and those jobs that require a college degree, they're not paying that well. They give you a 2% raise year over year. You get your 2 weeks vacation. Whereas if you go into the trades, you've got plumbers, electricians making well over $100 an hour. There's a lot of demand for that. There's always going to be broken lights and broken sinks. So you're never going to have a shortage of work. So when you have skills that are in high demand, you can make a ton of money. And when you make a lot of money, what can you do? You can pay off your debt a lot quicker. You'll be mortgage free. You'll have tons of stocks. Maybe you'll buy rental properties, so on and so forth. So when you have skills that pay the bills, you become very wealthy. A side hustle. I have an online business where I sell study guides, and it's become very successful, and I'm scaling it up hopefully to a 10x this year. I'm going to do a video on that and how I did it, how I found a market to exploit. But nonetheless, if you start a side hustle, eventually it might be able to replace your 9 to 5. And that's the point of all this, to escape the rat race. No one likes going to work. No one likes getting 2 weeks PTO, a 2% raise. And we have one life to live in all of this. What does it lead to? Number 4 here. Using all of this to achieve financial freedom so that you can maximize your enjoyment in life. And with that being said, that's the end of this video. If you found value in this video, all I ask for in support of me and my channel and all my hard work is to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for being here.